Do we need a preamp between a DAC and an amplifier? Oh boy, here's some controversy for you. This comes from Italo in Lima, Peru. Hey Paul, do we necessarily need a phono preamp stage, or I'm sorry, do we need, I inserted that, Lima didn't say that. Do we necessarily need a preamp between a DAC and a power amp? What about matching the impedance and sensitivity of these? Is it the same control, the way the volume is handled, for example, a DAC volume knob? Any pros and cons? I'd love not to overspend money, and if this means avoiding buying another component, so be it. Man, well, as they say, that's a gnarly subject. So let me give you my current state of affairs. You need a preamp, but a really good preamp. And if you can't get a really good preamp, budget doesn't allow, whatever it is, then don't do it. Then go direct with your DAC. Because unless you can get the very best preamp, then you want to stay away from a preamp, because lesser preamps will add to the signal chain, degrade the signal, and give you worse performance. And that's all considering that you have a DAC with a volume control that doesn't lose any kind of resolution, which not all DACs can say that. So I can only base it on well, take our DACs, a direct stream DAC, for example, whether it's the big one or the little one. They have a volume control on in there that are impervious to any kind of change in terms of resolution. So from 100 down to 30 or 20 or 5 or whatever it is on the volume control, there's no difference in resolution. You're getting identical resolution regardless of the volume setting. Our digital guru Ted Smith has made sure of that. Yeah. And it's direct stream DACs aren't the only ones that do that, for sure. So you know, ours isn't the only one, but typically the better designed DACs don't lose resolution. Lesser designed DACs do, so there you want to be careful, and that resolution can go away pretty darn quick, so that you don't want. So check on that with your DAC manufacturer. For many, many years, even after direct stream came out, I was a big, staunch advocate of no preamp. And I've told this story before. And I mean, I went direct. Why? Because the engineer in me said, look, anything I put in the signal chain is going to degrade sound. It's not going to make it better. We can't make things better. All we can do is make them worse or make them less worse. You really, you know, unless you're adding EQ or you're doing something to the signal, how can you possibly make it better? Now you brought up one point, which is impedance matching. Well, I'd already considered that. Our DACs are very low output impedance and our power amplifiers are very high input impedance, so matching, nah. Cable interactions, well, we know that terminating a cable on its input and its output is important. So it could be that, but a preamp has about the same output impedance as a well-designed DAC. And we're always going into the same power amplifier. So, you know, like our preamp has probably 200 ohms output impedance and our DAC maybe 600 on one and 300 on another. Very little difference between those two feeding a cable. And it could be balanced or single-ended. So it wasn't until my good friend, the late Arnie Nudell, as he was wont to do, drugged me over to his house. He lived up in Vail. And he said, you know, you are completely full of shit when it comes to your stance on DACs and power amplifiers. Now, this was very much like the Arnold, we called him. He was certainly, if nothing, opinionated. And he demonstrated on our DAC, on the direct stream DAC, into our power amplifier, how putting in an Aesthetics Calypso preamplifier made it sound so much more musical. I was stunned. And I thought, okay, I'm getting, a bit, because it's a tube, I'm getting some warmth, I must be giving up detail or resolution. No, quite the opposite. In fact, every aspect was better, very much better. I mean, I came away from there just stunned. You know how you have a thought about something, I don't care what it is, human nature, politics, electronics, you name it, whatever it is you have near and dear to your heart that you have said and felt for your entire adult life, and then somebody shatters it for you like that. And you can't deny it. There it is. You can jump up and down all you want, but there it is. First thing I did, I went out and bought an aesthetics Calypso, and I had it in my system for, God, a year or two. And at that point, that's when I commissioned Bascom King. I said, Bascom, this is absurd. I mean, I love my Calypso, but we got to have our own preamplifier. And so he set out to design it, and he did, and the BHK signature's out, and it's amazing. Okay. One of the experiments I did is I said, is my entire thought process wrong, or just this preamp? So we went back and took some of our older preamps, some of our solid state designs, and indeed, they sounded worse. So there, as soon as we went down a few notches in preamplifiers, I tried, okay, I'm not going to name names. I tried some of my favorites from other companies, and they all too degraded the sound. So it wasn't until we reached a certain level in preamplification that this became true. So this is a very long-winded spiel to answer a very simple question, and I apologize for that, but in our field, things are never quite so simple. So, bottom line, if you have a DAC that does not lose resolution when you use its volume control, and you're going into a properly matched, impedance-matched amplifier, which almost all of them are, and you don't have a BHK signature, an aesthetics Calypso, or some, in the very top echelon of preamplifiers, then yes, go direct with your DAC. Absolutely. You'll be much better off. Then you can just futz around with various cables and get it right. If your budget allows, get yourself a great preamp, and your DAC experience will be on an entirely different level. Guaranteed. It's easy to demonstrate. People show up here, I do it all the time. So, all right. Great question, thank you. I will see you tomorrow.